Muy buenas tardes. Good afternoon from our stunning campus in Marbella. You can see here in my back that there's a beautiful weather behind. And I think that is the best scenario and the best environment to introduce our webinar today. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Jon Loiti, and I'm the Graduate Program Manager at Les Roches, Marbella. And today I have the pleasure to introduce you our webinar as part of our Executive Industry Talks, which is part of our Executive Master Program. Our students, every time that they come to campus, they have the opportunity to meet a guest speaker from the industry and share experiences and also network and have this kind of industry professional talks that adds value to the learning in classrooms. Today, I have the pleasure to introduce two important people on this program. On my right side, Ms. Montero, which she is the program coordinator of our postgraduate program. And she is also our revenue management lecturer in our master's and postgraduate program. Ms. Montero, would you like to introduce our guest today?
Good afternoon, everybody. Today I have the pleasure of introducing to our colleague, Ms. Cristina Lopez. She's the current revenue manager at Anantara via Padierna Palace, one of the most renowned resorts here in Costa del Sol. And we normally invite her as a guest speaker to keep in touch with the industry because she can deliver from firsthand what are the current trends in the industry. Yeah.
Thank you, Rocío. It's really a pleasure to be here to meet some of our students here today. And hopefully I will be able to strive with that excellence and that passion for revenue management that I currently have.
Thank you very much, Cristina. Before we go any further with your explanation, we have a video that we would like to share with our audience. Be just informed that we have two types of audience today. We have our online followers, the ones that are actually following this webinar from their homes. Also, we have here our passionate students from our postgraduate class. And I would like to thank you very much them to be here as their class is already finished. And we know that the students normally after class, they don't pretend to stay any longer at campus, but today they have decided optionally to stay, which is also a very good sign, and we really appreciate that. And also like to thank you to the production team from this fantastic setup. Please, if you like, let's share that video for our audience to have a better understanding of what we do here in Marbella. Here we are back. I hope you liked the videos we shared with you. And let's start with the actual topic and discussion of the day, which, as we mentioned earlier today, the topic of discussion is around revenue management, tools, and applications. So I leave to the experts to talk about the themes. I would like to know a lot about revenue management. Unfortunately, it's not my expertise, so I leave to you both to lead this discussion. So please, Ms. Lopez, if you'd like to share with us your words. Thank you very much.
Hello again. Well, the topic that we prepared for today is about the tools and applications that we currently use in revenue management. As the internet develops, as there are more and more applications that are web-based, that are making our lives as revenue managers a little bit easier, and also they are helping us save some of our time to actually dedicate onto creating the strategy the part that the machines cannot do, and they need a human component to actually drive a successful strategy. So we are going to be talking first about the main objectives, what it is that we need these applications, these systems for. I will be talking through a few of all these systems that we work with. What are the main software systems and applications? What are the key functionalities? But also what should be the key requirements that we should be looking at in these applications for them to be actually successful, actually helpful for us. I'm going to be showing you as well how do we integrate all of these different systems and applications within the hotel environment. And I will also be showing you a few of the examples of some of the tools that I've had the experience to work with, others that I have tested myself, although I haven't actually worked with them. And we will finish with a very typical tool that I'm sure everybody knows about. So about the main objectives of the systems and applications, we're going to be using different systems, different applications for three main reasons. The first of all is operation. As you may know, revenue management is about taking the right strategies and putting them out there for the public, for our guests, to be able to book our rooms at the highest possible rate or giving us also the highest possible occupancy. All right? When we are in the current marketplace, which travels at a massive speed, we need to be very much on top of it. We sometimes have to change our rates several times a day. And if one person have to do that manually, that would basically take the whole of our time. So one of the reasons why we need these tools is to actually release some of that time that we can then dedicate to other more profitable areas of revenue management. The second objective of these tools is to provide us with information. When we talk about revenue management, we need to know not only about our clients' behavior, we also need to be very aware about what are our hotel's strengths and weaknesses, how the hotel actually locates itself in the environment, what are our competitors, and it's not only important how our clients behave, what are their booking behavior, but also how our competitors are behaving, all right? Because at the end of the day, we are not alone in the marketplace. And everything that we do is going to be creating a reaction, not only from our guests, potential guests, but also from the competitors, all right? At the end, when we put all this information together with the operation, we are able to build a strategy. The strategy is those ideas that we put in paper that are going to be maximizing our revenue. We can maximize our revenue basically growing in terms of occupancy or growing in terms of average rate, all right? When are we going to try and grow via occupancy? Usually in the low season. In the low season, when there is not so much demand out there, we need to identify these periods so we can actually try and grow our occupancy as much as possible. When there is a lot of demand out there, we would be calling that the high season, and then what we are going to be focusing on is to grow our average rate, all right? All of those medium season, all those shoulder periods in between, we are going to try and identify where is it that we can grow the most. Sometimes we will be able to grow via occupancy. Sometimes we will be able to grow via average rate. Sometimes we can actually grow via both. So the strategy are those ideas that are going to help us identify all these ideas and all these periods to know what kind of operating measures we need to implement in each one of these periods. So when we talk about systems that a revenue manager works with, we start with our PMS. Property Management System is the system that a hotel is going to be using, not only for revenue manager, but also for everything. It's a front office, it's back office, it's financing, it's purchasing, is everything. Everything comes together in the PMS of the hotel. That PMS is the one that is going to be receiving the reservations, and is the PMS that is going to be giving us the information that we are going to have to feed into other systems that we're going to be working with. The PMS then, we would be considering that system as part of the operational systems that we would be using. Within these operational systems, we would also have what we call a channel manager. A channel manager is a system that we use to distribute our rates and our inventory, our availability. We know how many rooms we still have empty to sell, and we know what price we want to sell them at. Now we need that information to be out there so the guests actually can see and can design for themselves. All right, we're talking about Booking.com, we're talking about travel agencies, we're talking about tour operators, we're talking about concierge services all over the world. All of those are going to be able to sell our rooms. They need information about our availability and our rates. The thing is, the more distribution channels that we have, the more time consuming it is to actually provide that information, to set that information in each one of these systems. This channel manager, what it does is takes all this information from the PMS and sends them to all of these different channels in a way that all of the channels are always showing the right, the most accurate, the most up-to-date information about availability and prices about our hotel. All right? Now, if we move towards the informational systems, we are going to know, we need to understand what kind of rates are out there. Not only ours, we already know about our rates, but we need to know what kind of rates our competitors are selling at. We need to be competitive, all right? So if we take into consideration rates and competition, there's two main systems that we're going to be using, or two main applications. One of them is a rate shopper. A rate shopper is a system that receives information about prices that our competitors are currently selling on all of those distribution channels where you are also selling your own rooms, all right? If you go to Booking.com, you're not the only hotel there. You have all of their competitors selling their rates in there as well. You need to be competitive. You need to make sure that you're not selling 100, 200, 300 euros above your competition. You need to be very aware of where the value of your property is and make sure that your rates are going to be matching that value. Not only the value that you have of your own product, but also the value that your guests are attaching to your product. All right? So this rate shopper is information where is a system where we can see what rates all of our competitors are selling at per day, per room category for the next year, for the next 365 days. This is extremely important. We are selling today, but we are not selling a room for tonight. We're not selling a room for tomorrow. We're not selling a room for next weekend. We're also selling rooms for summer. We're also selling rooms maybe for Christmas, for next New Year's. So we need to understand what kind of rates all of those competitors are having out there for those dates where you are selling your rooms as well. If we had manually to go onto Booking.com and do a shop that we call to go and search for rates of each one of our competitors, it would take us the whole day. We wouldn't be able to do anything else. So that's why to have this kind of system is extremely, extremely important. All right. The next platform company application that we use is actually a company. It's a business intelligence a company that is called STR. STR stands for Smith Travels Research, and it's a company that specializes in creating big business intelligence for hotels. What this company does is receives information about occupancy and rates from all the competition, puts them all together because by competition laws, we cannot share that kind of information, confidential information directly, but this company puts it together into a package so you can compare yourself to the competition. You can compare your occupancy with theirs, you can compare your rates with theirs, and you can see if you're actually performing well or not in the marketplace. All right, you can identify which days of the week you are not performing as well as you would like to. You can identify what periods of the year you could be growing in average rate because all of your competitors are doing it. So what are you doing that you are not able to match those kind of average rates? The same with occupancy. So this information, this company is going to give us this information about how we are faring in terms of average rate, average occupancy, and RevPAR. All right? Once we have all of this information in place, we're going to be able to strategize a little bit more. But what other systems are going to be very interesting for us to have in order to make the proper strategy? We're going to be introducing what we call an online reputation manager. This online reputation manager and ORM is not something that we handle ourselves directly. It's usually a system that the guest experience department in the hotel, even the general management, but me more in direct relationship with it, but we need to understand all that as well. What this system does is to agglutinate everything together, all of the reviews, all of the online reviews that customers leave out there about your hotel. It's important for general managers to understand because they can see very easily what aspects of the operation they should be trying to improve, which ones the guests are already valuing it very highly, and which ones there is still room for improvement, all right? Once you understand what kind of value your hotel has in the mind of consumers, you're going to be able to set your strategy. If you see that your consumers, your guests, are valuing your hotel much higher than one of your competitors, it's more likely that you're going to be able to set your rates above those ones of the competitors and still achieve a very good occupancy rate, all right? If guests understand that your product is superior, they will be happy to pay a superior rate for your rooms. So that's why it's very, very important for us revenue managers to keep an eye on, even if we do not handle it directly. When we take all of this information together and we put it all together in the same system, we would be talking about a revenue management system. This is a system that will take all of the information from the PMS. Some of them incorporates information about STR, about our competitors. They will be receiving all the rates our competitors have out there, and it will create predictions of what kind of demand we can expect for the future. With those predictions, you can identify those periods where you're going to have very high demand and which periods you're going to have low demand, and then you can plan accordingly. You can plan not only operating the more operation part of the business, such as staffing and suppliers and things like that, but also what kind of rates you're going to put out there and for which segments. Some periods are very high in business segments, and other periods are much more important for leisure segments. All of this segmentation, all of these different segments are going to have different values, different value attached to your property. And that is very important that you are aware of it, so you put the right information out there for them. So what are the key functionalities of the different systems? Let's just start with the channel manager. The channel manager, like I was saying before, is one of the systems that we're going to be using for the operational part of revenue management. Like we said, this channel manager, the main functionalities of it are going to be the rate distribution. They're also going to be distributing our availability, but not only those two, but also the restrictions. Restrictions are ways for us, revenue management, to restrict, to limit the kind of demand that we want to accommodate in our hotel. Obviously, when there is low demand, you want to receive as much as possible because you still have free rooms to sell. But when you are in a period of very high demand, there's a very high chance of you having a lot more demand that you can actually accommodate in your hotel. We call that unconstrained demand. And in those kind of periods is when when revenue management is going to shine the most, because that's when you are going to start picking what kind of that demand is going to be the most profitable for you. You're not going to be accepting a reservation for 100 euros if you have another customer that is willing to pay 150 for the same room. And for you to be able to say no to the first and yes to the second is to have all of this information beforehand. All right, so this restriction distribution is very, very important. If I want to set a minimum length of stay for reservations on a given weekend, if I want everybody that stays on a Saturday in my hotel, I want them to stay a minimum of 2 nights, I need to be able to set this restriction in every channel that I sell my rooms through. If I set that restriction in booking.com, but not in Expedia, I'm not doing it right, because the person from Expedia is going to give me less revenue than a person booking through booking.com or even directly with the hotel. All right, so it's very important that all of the same information is accurate and is the same across all systems, across all channels. We also know that certain channels are more costly for the hotel in terms of commission than other channels. Therefore, we might decide that for certain periods of very, very high demand, we would prefer to receive customers from a channel that is not charging us as high commission as others. So these kind of channel managers is interesting as well, that they allow us to discriminate what kind of channel we want to have open and when. Some of these channel managers as well, they offer some reporting capabilities. They can give us an idea without us having to build that report ourselves. They can give us an idea of how much business we are receiving from each one of these channels and on each one of our periods, of our months, of our days of the week. And then again, we can use that information to strategize. If I know that I'm receiving too much business on a high demand day from a channel that is very expensive for me, I might decide to strategize and say, no, when these requirements are set, are met, I'm not going to be selling more than 10, 15 rooms through this channel, because I know that there is plenty of demand on all of the other channels that are actually going to fill up my hotel at a more cost-effective kind of business. All right? What are we going to be asking from a channel manager? That is fast and that is reliable. I need to trust that when I set a price in that channel manager, that price is going to be replicated in every one of my channels right away. If one channel manager takes 2-3 hours to update my prices on one channel, but only 5 minutes in another channel, I'm not going to be selling the same rate on different channels. And that might be bad for my business, especially if one of those channels that take the longest is one of those channels that are the more cost effective. and also reliable. I need to trust that when I close sales, because my hotel is fully booked, that closure is going to be replicated in all of the channels. I don't need to go to each one of those channels and make sure that that channel is closed. Otherwise, I would be incurring in an overbooking with all the negative repercussions that could have for our hotel. All right? So that about the channel manager. Let's talk a little bit about the rate shopper. The rate shopper, like what we said, is a system that allows us to check all of the rates, both ours and our competitors, for a booking window. A booking window is all of that period where I'm selling rooms for. If I'm selling rooms for the summer, that's part of my booking window. If I'm selling rooms for Christmas, that's part of my booking window. All right? So what am I going to need from that rate shopper? What is those key functionalities that I should be looking at? How often this system is actually updating prices? Because maybe I'm not very fast, I'm not very frequent in changing my prices. But if my competitors are changing prices 2 and 3 times a day, I need to understand what prices they are selling at every certain point in time. That is very important. I also need that tool to give me like-for-like shops. If I sell bed and breakfast, I need to know that the rate that I can see from my competitors is also bed and breakfast. Otherwise, we are not looking at the same information. And the customer that is looking for bed and breakfast is not looking for room only. We need to make sure that when we compare our prices to make sure that we are competitive, we are comparing apples with apples. Very important. Sometimes it's also very important that we're able to compare different categories. Every hotel is different. I might have standard rooms, premium rooms, and suites. My competitors might have mountain view rooms, sea view rooms, and junior suites. I need to understand what my competitors are selling, what kind of product they have, how it compares to mine, to make sure that I take that into consideration when I'm comparing my prices. If I know that my junior suite is double the price from the junior suite from my competitors, I can expect that my guests, especially those that know my hotel, are going to be happy to pay a little bit more for my junior suites. They're bigger, they're better, they're lighter, I don't know, they're closer to the beach. Whatever the situation, we need to make sure that we are, again, comparing apples with apples. Another thing that we use this channel, this rate shopper for, is to control the parity. Rate parity is increasingly important. When I want to sell at a certain price, that's the price that I'm choosing to sell at. I don't want other channels to be selling at a price that is lower or higher than that, because that might damage a little bit my reputation, might damage my image. If, I don't know, some channel is consistently selling my rooms at a lower rate than on my website, because my guests are going to go and book on that other channel, even though it's more expensive for me. All right, so these rate shoppers not only allows us to compare the rates between ourselves and the competition, but also to compare our own rates in a variety of channels. All right? What are we going to be needing from these rate shoppers? That are accurate, that are flexible, that I'm going to be able to find the right amount of information, the right information that I need to make the best decisions possible to maximize my revenue. All right? Let's go now and talk a little bit about the revenue management system. Revenue management system is probably one of the most important systems that we can find out there now. It's a system that is going to take the information from our PMS, is going to process a lot of data, and is going to give us a prediction of our future demand. Based on that prediction, this system is going to be generating different decisions in terms of prices and in terms of restrictions. What kind of price we should be selling at, how many rooms we should sell at that price, and when we should change either the price or the restriction. This system takes all that information and gives you a decision on prices. It gives you a recommendation on what price you should be selling to maximize your revenue. All right? There are so many revenue management systems out there at the moment. Back when I started, somewhat 15 years ago, there was only one or two, but I am seeing a trend in the last 5-6 years. There are more and more systems like these are showing up on the internet. They're all web-based. They're basically all cover a number of points. But what is important about these tools is that you are able to customize them for your hotel. Every hotel is different, and not every tool is going to work for you the same way. You need to find that one that is going to be perfect for your business. That is very important. Another important key point for these revenue management systems is what kind of integration is going to have with the rest of the systems. All of this information that you're getting from all of these different systems, they need to talk to each other. If you expect this revenue management system to produce the best decisions possible, it needs to be fed with the most amount of information possible. This information needs to be accurate as well. All right? So very important that it's customizable and that is easily integratable with the rest of your systems. Talking a little bit more about what an RMS or revenue management system process is, we first take the data from the PMS and we feed it into the system, okay? Then the system is going to be creating a forecast based on that data. It's gonna be looking at the past, it's gonna be looking at the present, it's gonna take information about the future that you tell the system about, and it's gonna create a forecast for you, a prediction for you. Based on that prediction, it's going to optimize. It's gonna crunch some numbers, it's going to go through a lot of algorithms, logarithms, and it's going to give you a best possible rate for each one of your room categories, for each one of your days into the future, up to 2 years in the future, all right?
So to interrupt a second, I know it wasn't predicting a question right now, but how accurate these forecastings are?
Sorry?
How accurate?
Accurate.
So in terms of the forecast and after the reality, is there a substantial accuracy in there? Or you can't?
I found from personal experience that the accuracy, the more you work with the system, the more accurate it becomes.
Okay.
These systems,
like artificial intelligence, yeah, to some extent.
kind of, yeah. I mean,
works.
actually, a lot of these revenue management systems now are starting to incorporate artificial intelligence into their data processing, and they're actually learning from what is happening currently.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Usually, they look at the past. The more consistent your past is, the more accurate the system is going to be. A little bit like us. I mean, the more experience, the more consistent behavior we can see in the data, in the historical data that we can see in our PMS, the easier it is going to be for us to make a proper decision in the past. I mean, if you know that when you see clouds, you can expect rain, it's because you have some experience about that in the past. The more it happens, the more accurate you're able to do these predictions. With a revenue management system, it happens a little bit like that. Actually, I have one of my first mentors in revenue management used to say that, and it doesn't only work for revenue management systems, but also in revenue management. Rubbish in, rubbish out. Whatever you make your decisions based on, that's going to be the strength of your decisions. If the information that you're basing your decisions on is not very good, your decisions are not going to be very good. So the first thing comes in the first step. That data collection from the PMS, it needs to be accurate. It needs to be understandable. It needs to be consistent. If you have a front office staff that sometimes they record a walk-in guest as a walk-in, sometimes they record it as a same-day reservation, sometimes they don't even record it as anything else, then the system is not going to know how to actually, what to make of it. You need to give the system accurate information for it to give you an accurate decision. Actually, at the beginning, when you start working with an RMS, they take usually the last 2 years of data from your PMS and they feed it into the system to start producing some sort of decisions. But for the first year, these decisions are not very good. You need to be on top of them because once you start working with these kind of decisions, systems, you start understanding the importance of having good data. When I start working in a hotel that has never done revenue management before, the first couple of months, I basically fight with every single department in the hotel because I need them to do things consistently. If they're not standard operating procedures, I need to create them, or they need to create them, but they need to always work the same way. If I cannot trust that the information that I see, because I don't insert that information, I only create reports based on that. If that information hasn't been inserted into the system in the proper way, I'm not going to be able to make the right decisions. A revenue management system works a little bit like that. The better your decisions, the better the data that you feed into the system, the better the decisions are going to be. A few years ago, we started working with Ideas. Ideas is one of these revenue management systems. It's probably one that has been out there the longest. It has something like 30 years of experience working with revenue solutions. And they used to tell me in the training period that you need to let the system know what you know. If you know something and you don't tell the system, how is the system going to be deciding things on your behalf without having all of the information that you have? If you know that in May you're going to have the final of the Champions League, you need to know, you need to let the system know that that's going to be a key date, that it should be expecting a lot more reservations because there's that event happening on that day. If the system starts seeing some very different patterns in the booking behavior and doesn't understand why it's happening, it might not give you the right decision on how to tackle that situation.
Good, thank you.
All right?
Yeah.
So once the system does all of this optimizing, it gives you the decisions. The decisions are going to be based on rates and based on restrictions. It's going to tell you what kind of rates, promotional rates, discounted rates, you should not be selling because you have plenty of other demand at a higher rate that should be filling up your hotel for the highest possible revenue. Once all of these decisions have been put out there through a channel manager, then the system monitors. It starts looking at the PMS and starts seeing what kind of reservations, after deploying all of those decisions, what is happening with the booking behavior? Is it changing? Is it doing what the system was expecting it to be doing after feeding it all of these decisions? Or nothing happens, because then it goes back and into optimizing again. It's a constant cycle. It gets the data from the PMS. It creates a forecast. It optimizes based on that forecast and deploys decisions. Based on those decisions, there's more information being collected by the PMS with the new reservations, and the circle starts again. And this is constant. And you might argue, so why do we need a revenue manager then in that hotel if the system is already doing it for you? You need somebody to make sure that the system knows what we know. We are there to feed into the system the strategy, the competition information, to let the system understand that it's okay for you to sell 10, 15, 20 euros above that specific competitor because your product is valued at a higher rate. All right? All of this information is very, very important. So let's understand how it all comes together. We talk about SDR, we talk about a channel manager, we have the hotel, we have the PMS in the hotel. We usually we have a central reservations office as well. We have a revenue management system. So how it all connects to each other is also very important to understand. We're going to have the hotel in the middle, but all of these systems, they have to talk to each other. The revenue management system, when it deploys a rate decision, that rate decision has to reach the channel manager, so the channel manager sends all of those rates to the rest of the channels. Also including to your own website. Sometimes the channel manager actually feeds that information into our direct channels as well. This revenue management system is going to be receiving information from the PMS, but it's also going to be sending information into the PMS. The channel manager is going to be receiving information from the PMS, which is availability, rates, and restrictions, and it's going to be sending information to the PMS as well. It's going to be sending reservations. All of these integrations, we talk about how many ways it goes. It could go one-way integration. That means that the information travels only one way, either upwards or downwards. But there's also two-way integrations, which are the most beneficial, because that means that there's a constant relationship, a constant communication between each one of these systems. I give you something, but you give me some other information in return. And it all feeds each other. It feeds themselves, and that creates better decisions. At the end of the day, what these decisions are allowing us to do is maximize our revenue. All right? On top of this, we look at SDR and how our competitors are doing. We are seeing the decisions, but then at the end of a period, we're going to be checking what our main KPIs look like. What is our occupancy rate looking like? What is our average rate looking like? Is my RevPAR being okay for the marketplace or not? Because sometimes you strategize thinking that something might happen, and then there is a change in the marketplace, and what you were expecting doesn't happen at all. And that is something that the SDR reports are going to be able to give you. They're going to make you understand if the competitors are suffering as much as you, if you are making better decisions as them, therefore stealing some of their business, if you're growing more than them, even if you're not growing too much, it might actually be beneficial. Think about COVID, for example. Everybody's doing worse than last year. Well, at last year, January and February, everybody is doing worse this year than last year. But that doesn't mean that you are doing a bad job. If you're still doing better than your competitors, that means that you are on a downside in the marketplace. If you are able to grow more than your competitors, even if you're not growing as much as you were last year, you're still doing good. All right? So let's have a look at a few examples. This first example is about the revenue management ideas. Ideas, like I said before, is one of the systems that has been out there the longest. The company was founded about 30 years ago, and is probably one of the most complete systems out there. It relies heavily, though, in past data. So if your past data is not very reliable because of fast changing in the marketplaces, maybe ideas will not be as reliable into the decisions as you might have hoped for, all right? Ideas is a very interesting system because it's very visual. It has all kind of graphs, all kind of heat maps where you can see at a very, very quick glance which days of your month are not very high in demand. So that's where you have to put your focus on, which days are actually going very good in terms of demand. So maybe you can let the system go on autopilot a little bit more because it's already going well. It's very, very visual for you. It gives you information about booking curves. The booking curve, what it shows us is the pace, what kind of speed we are receiving our reservations. How fast are we receiving our reservations? The faster we receive our reservations, the higher the chances that you're going to end up filling up your hotel. If your pace is very low, you're receiving very, very few reservations every day, and it's going to be much, much harder for you to fill up your hotel. The more chances you have to fill up your hotel, the more you can push your prices up, all right? The good thing about this system is how visual it is, all right? One of the downsides, I would say, is that it has a set of reports, and it's very difficult for you to create, well, it's not possible for you to create customized reports. And also this kind of system, if your past is not very reliable, for example, now during COVID, Ideas is not producing very good decisions, all right? Unless you are constantly on top of it and you are feeding all that information that you know into the system. But that creates a lot more manual work for us. All right?
I think we have some questions from
Questions.
the audience. So I think that we have one from Nurbolat Tairov and says, how to avoid corruption movement in hospitality?
I'm not sure I get the
Yeah, I guess that
meaning.
is probably how to avoid the false information. Sometimes then it might be on the market.
Okay, maybe about the, well,
yeah,
one of
maybe
these.
gossip or fake news or this type of false information that may somehow influence on your predictions.
Okay, well, I mean, first of all, the information that all of these systems are going to be using are the ones that are coming from your PMS, mostly, all right? So the information that are in the PMS is always going to be reliable, obviously. Right. That's the real information. What I can see a little bit more of a touchy subject there might be in those competition reports, in STR reports. STR as well is a company that has been out there for many, many, many years. And it's built, I mean, hoteliers use them. If you do not feed correct information of your hotel into this STR company, you are not going to be able to use those reports at all. Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to, usually there is a contract in place that you have to sign, that you're going to be providing the right information. Like I always say to some colleagues, if you're going to lie, just don't say anything. If you don't want to share your information, don't share it. But to share bad information at the end damages everybody, because it's not only my hotel making decisions on those reports, it's also your hotel and the other one and the other one. So first of all, we all sign this kind of contracts to make sure that this company is actually providing with the correct information. And also the fact that this company makes a bundle of all this information. the confidential information remains confidential. You can see the information about your competitive set. You don't see information about one specific hotel or another specific hotel. So that kind of, you are anonymous in that way. So there's nothing for you to fear. I mean, your data is not going to be sold just like that out there. So hotels don't really have a reason to actually lie in there.
We have another question from Gonzalo Santos, and he questions, how are you managing the forecast towards your RMS, since the historical information might not be very important due to the pandemic situation?
Yes.
I think that's a very
very real question that all revenue managers have been asking ourselves for the last year, basically. What we are doing is looking at a more recent trend. Usually when you create your forecast, you kind of look at the same period last year or a comparable period in the past. Now, because of COVID, the information that we have last year might not be very reliable, but we have information from last week. So there is a lot more uncertainty. All of these forecasts are obviously not as accurate as we would like them to be, but we need to look at much more recent trends to make sure that we are using the most accurate information.
Absolutely.
Let's say that revenue managers are trend seekers. As anybody looking for the trend in fashion, we look for the trend in demand and when the clients are.
Actually, one of the profiles, the typical profile for a revenue management expert would be able to identify trends. If you're not able to identify trends, do something else, because that's key.
Absolutely. And I think we have another question from Gonzalo. And he's asking, as a revenue manager, how do you manage the relationship with departments such as front office teams and sales teams? That's another typical question in hospitality, as we know that there's sometimes the friendship in between departments not always optimus. Yeah.
Daily.
Daily.
Actually, with the sales team, there should not be differences between the revenue management team and the sales team. It should all be together because we are all there to maximize revenue for the hotel. One key aspect is to align incentives. If you are telling the sales people that you're going to be receiving an incentive, the more groups they sell, they might be selling you groups in your high season when you have a lot of other much higher paying customers willing to come to your hotel. You need to align those incentives so at the end of the day, the ultimate benefactor is the hotel. It's not one department against each other. We all need to row in the same direction. But I like to cultivate my relationships daily. There's a lot of coffees, a lot of,
At the end,
muffins.
we are somehow, we depend, or you guys depend very much on other departments, as you mentioned earlier, since we are information requirements. Yeah.
It helps as well when you explain these other departments why you need this information to be done a certain way and not another, and they will eventually understand. I have noticed throughout the years that there's a lot of people within the hotel in different departments that are very, very interested in revenue management. But because they don't know much about it, they kind of look at us like these weird data crunching professionals. But at the end of the day, we depend so much on them that we need to cultivate those relationships daily.
We have another question by Gonzalo Santos too. It says that during this situation where hotels are reopening at different paces, what is your insight on managing the rate availability? For example, if you are one of the few hotels or the only one open in the area of competition.
Okay, first of all, we got to understand that if there's less hotels opening, is because the demand that is for that marketplace is not enough for all of the hotels to be open. So ideally, there should be some proportionality. The less demand you have, or there is, the fewer hotels are going to be open. The more hotels they're open with the least amount of demand, the more aggressive the competition. It can be very risky because if we start a price war, the only ones that are going to be damaged by this are the hotels. So we gotta make sure that we understand the value of our hotels. We need to understand why the demand is lower than what we were expecting to be. It's not because our prices are too high, so don't lower the prices. Demand is lower because people cannot travel. They want to, but they can't. So prices have nothing to do. So we have to, for that, it has to be an understanding within all the revenue managers in the area. Actually, that's something that I like to do as well in this area, is to cultivate relationships also with revenue managers in the area to make sure that we elevate the destination as a whole, because at the end, everybody gets benefited from there. If we know that the demand is not failing because of rates, let's maintain our rates. I mean, obviously, we are on a much more lookout for small changes than I might have been a couple of years ago. I mean, a couple of years ago, a competitor might drop the rate by 10 euros, and I would disregard it. But now, I see that competitor decreasing the rate by 10 euros, and I'm already thinking about ways of maintaining my price, but still compete. Maybe I can add something extra to my rate offering, and then the guest might have a tougher decision to make, you know? But it's not all about dropping prices. We need to think about rates and what kind of value we are giving for that rate.
It is true, actually. We've been doing some projects in Spain, and we were, some of us very genuinely, we were thinking that prices will be very cheap, and we were thinking, well, we can probably drop down our budget for the trip, and actually, no. We were
good.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of my colleagues.
No. We were all the time looking at similar prices on the last year period. So
Yes.
It kind of was surprising for us. I think we are reaching very much to the end of the presentation. But before, I think, Rocío, you mentioned earlier that you want a question.
Yes, although you nearly answered the question, yeah, but apart from this lack of historical data that we have now, what do you think is the main challenge the hotels will face from the revenue management perspective in the close future, in the short future?
The uncertainty is not up to us anymore. It's up to that government out there, not only our own government, but also of all those countries that are actually sending business our way. I mean, we depend so much on the decision that is made in some government in the UK or in Germany or in Italy, if they close the borders or if they make mandatory confinement of 14 days after traveling. That makes our lives more difficult, even though it has nothing to do with us. And the problem about that is that we don't know when it's going to change and how it's going to change. We have the hope that summer will be kind of normalized, but we're going to have to wait for summer to actually figure out if our hopes were true or not.
Yeah, things can change from one day to another. So depends what the government announced today.
Yeah,
it actually will
exactly.
repercute directly to your reservations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was running for a couple of, for a few months. I've been managing some hotels in the Algarve, and last summer the Algarve went under a safe corridor with the UK, and we saw an increase of almost 30 points in occupancy in 48 hours.
That's huge.
30 points of occupancy in 48 hours.
Amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But the previous day, we couldn't know. So either you are fast at adapting your prices, or those are a lot of opportunities lost in terms of revenue.
But now then the trend seeker is to be up to the news to see when the borders are open.
And be ready. It's now the only thing that we can be is ready. Have everything in place and have different scenarios. Okay, if this happens, let's do this. If this other thing happens, we'll go for that. And if these two don't happen, let's keep it like this, and let's hope that at some point it's going to change more towards our positive outcome.
I have a last question, and bearing in mind and taking the opportunity that we have here students that are listening to you very attent. I would like to make a question on there. I would like to take, with your permission, your voice, and I would like to ask you, I mean, a Les Roches student, now that you know our students a bit better since you collaborate with us in the last months, how you see them performing in the industry? I mean, how you actually see our students in the current luxury 5-star hospitality sector?
Yeah. From a point of view, Les Roches offers something that is very unique and is such an amazing variety of cultures, of languages, of backgrounds. It's so enriching. It's not only enriching from what they receive from the teachers, but also within each other. Because they live with each other, they study with each other, they're constantly challenging everything that we say, which is enriching at the end of the day. And also the education that they receive here in Les Roches is up to date, is constant, and it's very much on top of what the current trends in the industry are. These kind of webinars, these kind of exercises are really, really important because they give them that kind of current insight into what they can expect once they leave the school. But especially for me, is that kind of enriching backgrounds and cultural differences. Because it's all about the hotel industry.
Thank you very much, and it's great to hear that from someone that is not directly related to us, because at the end of the day, we have a very narrow mind, and sometimes we don't see beyond the walls, and it's great to hear from directly from the industry that our students are perfectly prepared for performing out there. So I think we are very much ending this event. I know that we had more questions, but unfortunately, due to time restrictions, we won't be able to answer all the questions. But however, if anyone any question that wants to answer desperately, we will very kindly answer if you drop that question on our chat box, and we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. Just let me conclude this event. First of all, thank you everyone for attending here today. I think we have an amazing opportunity to listen to a very technical point of view from revenue management, from someone that directly on a day-to-day basis works on the field. And for us, it's very important that we maintain this relationship with the industry and the students that perceive that what we do in class is something similar, if not the same, to what happens outside. And that's very important for us. Also, just to finish again, just remind everyone that this seminar that we are doing today is something that we commonly do every time that our students visit campus, particularly our executive master students, as we have programs for all type of professionals as well, since working at the moment is not an excuse to study, and we have different opportunities as well, professionals to join the academic life, to join a fantastic brand like Les Roches, in order to grow and to develop our professional and also our personal careers. So just take a look in the information that Les Roches website offers. And again, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for your time. And I hope to see you soon on the next event that we create soon. Thank you and take care.
Thank you.